I've been posting our classes on the website, so those are available for anyone to listen to anytime you want. So if you want to refer back to any of these or listen to some of the previous talks, you can do that. And the meditations are also recorded, so you can just repeat these meditations if you would like to do that.
What's the website?
It is stillknowing.org. Still Knowing is the name of the meditation center, so stillknowing.org. And actually, I have a handout that I'll pass out tonight, and that is on there. The information for the website and my contact information too. So, but we'll begin with what has kind of become a tradition for us. What we do is start by ringing this bell, and this bell is kind of a call to mindfulness. It's the tradition. It's called a Vajra bell, and it's a Tibetan temple bell. And so the tradition is that they would ring it. And in the ringing of that bell, the Tibetan monks would ring the bell, and the tone of the bell would push out negative energy, and it would welcome in positive energy. So I always liked that tradition, but I also found that it's kind of useful for coming in after a busy day of whatever your experiences are. A lot of times you're kind of bringing in thoughts about what's been happening, plans for what you're going to do when you get home, and so it's kind of a nice opportunity to put those things down metaphorically and instead just get into contact with what it feels like to be here. So that's been our tradition with this bell. So I'll start by just inviting everyone to take a moment. You can kind of close your eyes. Just take a moment to become present here, become present in your body, become aware of your presence in this place, and maybe just take note of any of those things that you're carrying with you, whether it's excitement of the day or concerns about challenges that you're dealing with, plans for the future, any of those things, and just take the opportunity to put them down, knowing that you can return to them after we're done here tonight, return to them with a refreshed mind and perhaps a refreshed spirit. So with that in mind, I'll ring this bell. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Namaskar, everyone, and welcome. So what we'll do is we'll begin with guided meditation. And so you can take the opportunity to get comfortable in any way you'd like to be. Some people prefer to sit in a chair for meditation, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that. Some people prefer to lay down. You can certainly do that as well. You can sit on the floor, cross-legged or some way. So it's really just whatever's comfortable for you. There's no wrong way to sit for meditation. I do have some extra cushions and mats if anybody needs any extra support or extra padding. Those round cushions are especially helpful for meditation. They elevate the sit bones a little bit. They kind of make it so you can keep your spine straight a little easier. So those are available to you. But sometimes it takes a little while to just try different things, sort of figure out what's going to be the best way for you to sit or lay during your meditation practice. And as I say, there's no wrong way. And as we begin, I will guide us through the entire meditation practice, so nothing you need to know how to do in advance. But if you start to feel like you're getting some pain in the body or there's some discomfort, feel free to move. You don't have to hold perfectly still. But it looks like this isn't your first rodeo. You're in the half lotus right now, so I think you maybe have your meditation posture already figured out.
I vary.
Yeah, well, that's
Sometimes
great.
I lay down too.
Sure, that's wonderful. So yeah, feel free to move anytime. Don't worry about it. You just want to be in a be in a state where there's no conflict in the body, if you can do that. And then, of course, that helps to remove conflict from the mind. But if you're kind of looking at it as an endurance contest and sort of trying to tolerate pain until you can make it through to the end of the meditation, odds are it'll be, maybe not the best meditation. So with that in mind, just a few reminders in general about posture. We close our eyes during the meditation practice. Not all meditation teachers suggest that, but what we find is that in closing your eyes, there's just fewer distractions, quite simply. When you're not looking at different things, you're not thinking about them. So closing the eyes helps to bring on a state of peacefulness and a clarity in the mind. You can let your breath be natural, and if possible, breathe through the nose. It's helpful to breathe through the nose as we get further along in the practice, but if you're uncomfortable doing that, by all means, just breathe through your mouth. And then maybe the last point I'll make is check in with your body and look for symmetry. It's helpful to be symmetrical, so both sides of your body are doing about the same thing. So in other words, you're not supporting all of your weight on one hip bone or straining with one side of your body. So symmetry and balance is helpful and conducive to a quiet meditation practice. So with those things in mind, I'm going to ring this meditation bell in front of me. I invite you to follow the sound of the bell, and when it becomes silent, I'll start to guide us through the practice. Follow the sound of the bell as it fades into silence. And let the silence be an invitation to turn your senses inward. So you can let go of one of the habits of the mind, which is to be projected outward for the most part. To be interested in the outside world and to be engaged in what's happening around you. Instead, just take the opportunity to turn your senses inward. Get in touch with the feeling of sitting in your own body or laying in your own body. Just bring your awareness to that feeling of being present. And having established that sense of presence and that sense of awareness here in your body, you can bring that awareness up to the top part of your head, to the area of your scalp. And for a few moments, just open up your awareness to any physical sensations in your scalp. So when you first start to observe, you may not notice much of anything. But if you continue observing, just remain aware. Keep your awareness focused on the scalp. You may start to become aware of sensations like temperature. It may feel warm to you in the room, or cool, or it may feel quite neutral. So these are sensations of temperature. Sometimes there's a sensation of air movement, and you'll detect that in the scalp. Movement of the air in the room, and you may feel it on the skin of the scalp or across the hair. Sometimes there are sensations on the surface of the skin of the scalp, and those might be a tickle or an itch, or sometimes a pulsation or just a feeling of energy. So open up your awareness to any of these physical sensations. Just notice them. You don't need to do anything with them. Just be aware. Let yourself experience those sensations, but be aware that you're experiencing them. And then, as you observe your scalp, if you become aware of any tension anywhere in the scalp, just let that tension go. Release the tension. Allow it to leave your body. And sometimes you'll discover that there is, in fact, tension even in the scalp. So let that go. Continue to observe the sensations in the scalp. And then we'll allow the awareness to move downward into the forehead, into the temples, through the eyebrows and into the eyes. Now in these areas, again, open the awareness to sensation. You may notice temperature. You may notice air movement. You may notice sensations on the surface of the skin. So just remain patiently aware, observing, allowing those sensations to become known by your awareness. And if there's any tension anywhere in the forehead or the temples, eyebrows or eyes, let that tension go. You might notice that your brow is furrowed or that there's tightness in the temples. Sometimes the eyebrows are raised or crinkled a bit. And sometimes you'll find the eyes are squinting just a little. So any of these places of tension, just let the tension go. Very softly, just allow it to leave the body and continue to observe the sensations. Then from the temples, we'll let the awareness move downward into the ears. And see if you can really feel the movement of awareness as we start to move from part to part. And once in the ears, just let the awareness begin to know the sensations that are there. And you can let the awareness flow forward from the ears, through the cheekbones and into the face. Let the awareness move from the eyes downward, through the nose, through the mouth and lips and chin. So with awareness focused on the face and the ears, open up to the physical sensations. Again, be patient, allow a little time. Sensations will come up. Observe them. There's no need to react to them in any way or judge them or even name them. Just let the experience be at the forefront of your awareness. And if you notice tension anywhere in the face or the ears, let that tension go. We sometimes use the image of a butterfly. If you found a butterfly inside your home on a warm summer day, and somehow it was trapped inside on a windowsill wanting to get out, you might walk up and very gently, very softly cup that butterfly in your hands. And then you might carry it outside and release it into the grass or into the trees. And as you did that, you might smile at the butterfly with kindness and compassion. So if you encounter tension in your own body, release it with that same spirit of compassion and kindness. Just setting it free, allowing it to leave your body. And continue to observe the sensations as they arise and as they pass away. Moving the awareness from the face downward now, from the chin downward, we'll move into the neck. Bring awareness into the front of the neck or the throat. Observe. Move the awareness to the sides of the neck, through the muscles there. Move the awareness to the back of the neck. And again, just notice the simple sensations. Anything you feel. There's nothing that you're supposed to be feeling or you're not supposed to be feeling. Just whatever the reality is for you in this moment, in the neck. And let the tension go. Let it leave the body very softly. Continue to observe the sensations and allow the awareness to flow downward into the shoulders. Let it spread out through the shoulders, observing the sensations. Temperature sensations, sensations on the surface of the skin. It's possible that if you're sitting in a chair or you're laying on the floor that you might notice a feeling of contact between your shoulders and the chair or your shoulders and the floor. You might notice the feeling of contact between your skin and your clothing. So just open up the awareness to these subtle sensations. Let the tension go. Let the shoulders drop if they're shrugged. And maintain a continuity of awareness, staying with the sensations after the tension has been released. And then from the shoulders, we'll let the awareness flow downward into the upper arms. Feel it in the different parts of the upper arms, the biceps. Take a moment there. Observe the sensations and release any tension. Move the awareness to the inside part of the upper arms. Repeat that simple process, just being aware, releasing, remain aware. Bring the awareness to the backs of the arms or the area of the triceps. Observe and release. Continue to observe and move the awareness to the outside part of the upper arms. Observing and releasing, staying present as we move through the different parts of the body now. See if you can just repeat that process very naturally and softly of just knowing the sensations in any given area, letting the tension go, maintaining that continuity of awareness, not reacting to any of the sensations, not overthinking them or intellectualizing them. Just be aware. Let the awareness flow through your elbows now. Feel it moving down into your forearms. Feel that awareness moving through the forearms down into the wrists. And you really see if you can feel that movement of awareness. There's often a very subtle flow as the awareness passes through the different parts. Move the awareness from the wrists into the hands. Observe as it moves through the different parts of the hands, the heels of the hands, and then the palms. Feel it on the tops of the hands, through the thumbs and the fingers. And then take a few moments to observe just the fingernails. Bring awareness to the fingernails. See if there's any sensations in the fingernails. Be patient and attentive. Let those sensations become known by awareness. And now we'll move from the tips of the fingers, we'll move awareness up to the top of the chest. You can start at the collarbones, and then let the awareness start to drift down through the chest. Feel it as it passes through the chest down to the base of the sternum. And then feel as the awareness moves outward, expanding through the rib cage. Observe the sensations in all of these areas as you move, and let go of any tension in the chest or the rib cage. Keep the awareness focused on sensation, and then we'll move the awareness to the underarms and begin to let the awareness move down through the sides of your body. Feel it moving all the way down to the waist, noticing those sensations, letting tension go. Bring the awareness forward into the belly. Just observe as the belly rises and falls with the breath. The feelings or the sensations of expansion and contraction with the breath. You might notice the sensation of your belly making contact with your clothing as you breathe. And if there's any tension in the belly, just release. Let your belly be free and completely relaxed. Picture a baby's tummy or a toddler's tummy, how they're just relaxed. Keep observing the sensations. And then from the belly, maintain that continuity of awareness, and we'll move from the belly around to the top of the back. And you can start at the base of the neck and let the awareness move down through the shoulder blades. Feel the awareness moving through the upper third of the back. Remain attentive to the sensations, not getting lost in the peacefulness, but remaining aware, letting tension go. Sometimes you might come to a place in the body where there are sensations of discomfort or fatigue. And oftentimes when we come upon those types of sensations, our reaction is to bring up some aversion. We dislike those sensations. We don't want them. But rather than reacting in that way, see if in the stability that you have in your own body, the presence you have in your own body, see if you can allow space for even difficult sensations to be just as they are, without rejecting them. Just allow space. Let them be. Let the awareness flow. Let the tension around difficult sensations leave the body. And feel the awareness moving down through the middle third of the back now. And just follow that same process, simply observing sensation. If there's a negative reaction of any kind coming up, open up the awareness. Just allow the reality of the present moment to be. Let the tension go. Move awareness downward through the lower third of the back now. Notice the sensations. Allow tension to leave the body. And then from the lower back, let the awareness move downward yet again. Feel it move down through your sit bones. Feel it moving through your hips, through the pelvis. Open up to the sensations in any of these areas. You might become aware of the feeling of contact between your sit bones and the floor or the chair. You might notice the feeling of bearing weight. If there's any tension anywhere in the pelvis, the hips, the area of the sit bones, just let that tension go. Keep observing. Move the awareness downward into the thighs now. And again, really try to feel that awareness as it moves through the body. There is a tangible sense as the awareness moves. Observe sensations in the top parts of your thighs. Move the awareness to the outsides of the thighs. And then bring it down to the underside of the thighs. And then to the inside. Getting in touch with the sensations, letting any tension go. And let the awareness move downward through the knees. Feel it moving through the knee joints, down through the calves and shins. Remember to be aware of the sensations. Just a gentle awareness, yet at the same time attentive, interested. Let tension go anywhere in the calves and shins. Feel as the awareness flows downward through the ankles now. And from the ankles, let the awareness move down into the feet. And with awareness in the feet, observe the sensations in the heels. Observe the soles of the feet and the balls of the feet. Bring awareness around to the tops of the feet. And let the awareness move downward into the toes. And finally, bring the awareness to the toenails. And just give it a few moments there. See if any sensations come up. Any sensations that are present in the toenails. You might find very subtle sensations. Now from the toes, from the tips of the toes, we'll maintain this continuity of awareness and we'll bring the awareness once again up to the top of the head, once again to the area of the scalp, and this time at your own pace, you can just guide the awareness back down through the head and the face and down through the body. Just guide the awareness through. Try to follow about the same path that we followed together. Try to focus on each part long enough to actually become aware of the sensations there. Remember to be objective as you observe the sensations. No need to judge or intellectualize. Notice the parts of the body where tension has returned or reappeared. There are places where you let the tension go a few minutes ago and it seems to have crept back in. It seems to have reappeared somehow. And what we discover is that as we go through the day and we have our variety of experiences, some are exciting and joyful, some are perhaps difficult and frightening or stressful, sometimes things that make us angry. And as we experience difficult emotions, the body responds with tension. The body holds this tension in different places habitually, some places more than others. Sometimes in the jaws or the shoulders or the belly or the hands. So noticing these places where tension reappears, where tension habitually appears, just release that tension. Along with it, you can release the echoes of the difficult emotions that cause the tension. Intentionally releasing, setting the body free. And once you've had a chance to move your awareness through your body at least once, you can bring it up to the base of your nose. There's a little patch of skin there beneath your nostrils and above your upper lip. Focus on this little patch of skin. Focus all of your awareness on this little patch of skin. And then expand the awareness just a little bit further into the rings of the nostrils. And then expand the awareness just a bit further still into the nasal passages. So now you have your awareness focused on this triangular area of the nose. And with your awareness focused here, simply observe the movement of the breath as it goes in and out through the nose. As you breathe in, be aware enough to notice that you're breathing in. And as you breathe out, be aware enough to notice that you're breathing out. Breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. And as you observe the breath, stay with it for the full duration. Just a gentle attention. Observing as the in-breath starts to come in. You'll notice that it slows and pauses. Then it reverses direction. It becomes the out-breath. Stay with the entire out-breath. Observe how it slows and pauses. And then it changes direction, becomes the next in-breath. Just stay with the movement of the breath. Notice how some in-breaths are a bit longer, some are a bit shorter. Same is true of the out-breath. With awareness focused in this triangular area of the nose, become aware of the touch of the breath. You might notice the touch of the breath as it moves, as it passes over the skin above the upper lip and beneath the nostrils, or as it passes through the nostrils, or as it passes through the nasal passages. Observe that touch of the breath. And as you continue to observe, become aware of some of the more subtle sensations within the breath. As you breathe in, the air is a bit drier. As you breathe out, the air is a bit more moist. As you breathe in, the air is a bit cooler. As you breathe out, the air is a bit warmer. Just allow the movement of the breath and the touch of the breath and the sensations of the breath to completely fill your consciousness. Remain aware. Sometimes you'll find that awareness is distracted away from the breath, sometimes by a sound in the building. And if you notice that your awareness has been pulled away by a sound, simply guide it back to the triangular area of the nose. Just return and focus once again on the movement and the touch and the sensations of the breath. And just let sounds go. Return to the breath. Sometimes you'll notice awareness of the breath is pulled away by sensations in the body. Sometimes fatigue, or maybe an itch or a tingle. But if you notice that awareness has been distracted by a sensation in the body, just bring it back to the breath. Bring it back to the nose. Once again, become aware. Just reestablish awareness. And do that over and over as often as you need to. Observe the movement of the breath and the touch and the sensations. Sometimes you'll even notice the mind has wandered a bit. The mind wanders away, thinking, imagining. And if you notice this distraction, again, just return the awareness to the breath. This moment of noticing distraction and returning to the breath is a wonderful and important moment. Just remain aware. Now let's share just a couple of minutes of meditation in silence together. Stay focused on the nose and the respiration and the sensations. Stay focused on that. And in a couple of minutes, I'll sound the bell to end the meditation. You can take your time. Just bring your awareness back to the room slowly. Sometimes it's helpful to move around a little bit. Maybe extend your legs. You can stretch. Some people like to stand up for a minute. Just whatever you need to do to kind of come back in. But you can maintain the peacefulness in your body, quiet in your mind, and just kind of enjoy it. You earned it. And that practice went 34 minutes. So hopefully it didn't feel like 2 hours and 34 minutes. Sometimes it feels a little longer, a little shorter, and sometimes we go a little longer and a little shorter. It just sort of depends. But we follow pretty much that same practice at the beginning of our weekly gatherings, and it's helpful to do the same practice over and over, because you'll really start to establish a baseline for how you're responding to what's going on. You know, one time you might sit and you notice that you're just kind of agitated. You know, there's a lot of things on your mind. The next time you sit, you might feel a little more calm or a little more peaceful or quiet. Sometimes you'll notice that in your reactions to different things, especially like the distractions towards the end of the meditation, sometimes your reactions to those distractions might be, you know, you might feel a little annoyed sometimes by a sound. And you think, I'm trying to meditate. That's, you know, it's bad. I don't want to hear a sound. And you'll notice when there's just that subtle reaction that it disturbs the balance of the mind and the body. You know, it creates just sometimes a very almost imperceptible ripple, but there's definitely something going on there. So you notice that reactions, negative reactions, disturb your peace and your balance. And then there's other times where you'll hear sounds and they're just part of the landscape of the present moment, you know, just sounds in the building, sounds in the room, sometimes sounds in your own body. You know, you might hear your tummy gurgle or something like that. It's just, and just allowing that to just flow right through awareness. You find that in doing that intentionally, that it's much more peaceful. You know, it's almost as if when there's resistance or when there's negative reaction, it's almost like there's a coagulation of that awareness, you know, that nice smooth flow of awareness. And but when there's a releasing and an allowing, just letting it pass through, there's a real nice flow to that energy of awareness. So with time, you'll start to notice some of these different subtleties in your own meditation practice, and you start to really gain some wisdom and some insight from doing that. But in this practice that we did together tonight, the two main practices that we did, there's kind of two main practices combined together. The first one is called samatha, and that's a Pali word. It means calm, abiding. And so we accomplish that by doing this scan through the body. So just simple awareness of our own sensations. You know, nothing far out or, you know, anything too out there. It's just, what does it feel like in my scalp? And sometimes, well, we start with the scalp. It's a good place to begin. Sometimes you'll go there and you don't really notice anything at first. But you do find that if you just let the awareness stay there, be patient, be attentive, yeah, you'll start to notice something in the scalp. And as you start to refine this ability to be aware of sensations, you'll notice more and more subtle sensations throughout the body. And you'll notice that as you get more in touch with those sensations throughout the body, you'll notice when they are sort of disturbed by reactions in the mind or thoughts or ideas. So the other thing is that habitual reappearance of tension. you can think of it almost like an echo of the negative emotion that caused the tension. So for example, if you're driving in your car, you're heading to work, you're heading somewhere in the morning, car in front of you slams on its brakes, you hit yours, there's that kind of that dreadful feeling of adrenaline that shoots through your body. It's kind of a, it's a jolt, it's unpleasant. You tense up. Then it takes maybe 5 minutes for that to subside a little bit. You back off, you try and calm down, listen to music or something. The mind moves on to other things, but oftentimes the tension in the body just sort of stays there. Kind of accumulates throughout the day in different parts, in different places. And with that tension being there, it is sort of like an echo effect. It's just sort of like the reverberation of that moment of, hitting the brakes and that jolt of unpleasant energy shooting through the body. So it's kind of this, this latent energy in the body. It's echoing again and again. Or it's almost like the grooves in a record album. They contain the vibration of the energy. So any way you want to look at that, it's a very real thing. So we find in this process of going through the body systematically with the body scan, noticing the sensations and just letting that tension go. Being real compassionate towards yourself. That's another thing that's important in this is, a lot of times we're pretty rough on ourselves. And we get disappointed with ourselves and we're hard on ourselves. And it's really important to come to this practice with some self-compassion that, hey, you deserve to be well. You deserve to be free from suffering. You really do. And so part of that is to let go of that tension. And you'll sometimes notice then that the subtle sensations in the body are just kind of soothing. They're kind of pleasant. There is a good feeling to just being in your own body when it doesn't have a lot of uptightness, kind of added to it. So just a little sort of description of what's going on there. The second phase of the meditation that we do is called anapanasati, and that means awareness of respiration. Again, it's a Pali term. A lot of the words that we use in the teachings and in the classes, a lot of those words are Pali words. The original texts in which these meditation practices and techniques and the theory around them were originally recorded. So we use a lot of those Pali words. It's kind of helpful to think about our experiences in a different way. To think of calm abiding, instead to think of maybe the word samatha, it might bring back that feeling a little more. Or in this case, anapanasati, awareness of respiration. So we bring the awareness up here to the nose. What we're doing as we move through the body, observing our sensations, we're focused on kind of larger places, and we're focused only for a few seconds in each particular area. We're here for 30 seconds, and then we move, and so we're kind of giving awareness something new to focus on as we move through the different parts of the body. But then after we've done the body scan, we bring the awareness just to the triangular part of the nose. So now we're focusing that awareness down to a narrower beam, if you will. So it's almost like light from the sun being focused through a magnifying glass. If the light is just diffused, there's still light there, but it's diffuse light. If you focus it through a magnifying glass, you're taking the beam of energy from the sun and you're focusing it into a really small spot, and it becomes very intense. And so awareness is the same way. We focus the awareness on this small area of the nose, and we find there's still actually plenty going on there. As the breath comes in and out, we just notice. We don't manipulate the breath in any way or try and do anything with it. We just try and notice what it is doing, and we observe that. And then after spending a little time with that movement of the breath, we do start to notice, there's a little feeling of touch. Sometimes we do pick it up right here on the little patch of skin. Or sometimes we'll pick it up right here in the nostrils, the rings of the nostrils, or in the nasal passages. So focusing on that touch and then the subtleties within it, different sensations. So there's a lot there to really focus the awareness on, but there's this narrowing of focus, and that really helps us to train the mind to remain still and to remain focused on one thing and kind of letting everything else go. So this is really intentional as we go through this practice, the way we do it and how we end up. This is also, when you're observing the breath, that's also the time where you probably will begin to notice the distractions arising. For one thing, you've been sitting or laying or you've been meditating for, probably 20 minutes at that time. So you'll notice that, there's maybe a feeling of, sometimes a little antsiness or, fatigue. You'll start to notice these things. But you'll notice this feeling of fatigue or antsiness or maybe just sort of a general aversion for the way you're feeling. You'll notice that, it'll really be quite stark, quite obvious if you're focusing narrowly. Normally, we're so occupied by just all the things that are happening, going on around us, we don't notice what the sensations are in the body around pain or discomfort or worries or thoughts or distractions. And we're not aware of it on the surface level of consciousness, and so there's kind of this ongoing sort of background hum of just feeling a little off, or uptight. We've all had that feeling. You don't really, it's like you're not even really noticing it, but there's something there. It's like, yeah, I just feel a little off, something's bothering me. I feel a little stressed. I feel a little uptight. So this practice is really designed to bring us directly in touch with, oh yeah, there's that feeling. And a lot of times that feeling is around reactions to different thoughts and to different sensations or to wanting to do something different than I'm doing right now. That's another big one. Just sort of not being okay with what's happening in the present moment. We notice that agitation. And so the simple way of dealing with that in the practice is just to notice it and then return the awareness to the breath. It's, sometimes we will think, oh, I'm supposed to be meditating. Doggone it, there I go again thinking. Well, then you're sort of creating more negativity in a way. You're sort of making yourself more uptight. But keep in mind, the mind was made to think. The body was made to feel, so that's bound to happen. You're bound to be distracted. But the practice is about noticing it and then about what you do once you've noticed. Normally we don't notice, normally we don't care at all, and we don't do anything intentionally. We just sort of let it all just kind of happen. So in this practice, we intentionally do something with our distraction, which is to return awareness to the respiration, refocus, let go of our inclination to respond perhaps negatively, and in that we notice peacefulness returns. Sometimes only for 1 second before another thought maybe pops up or another thing distracts us, but that's okay. You'll notice that over time, as you continue to work with the practice in just this way, that 1 second turns into maybe a few seconds after a while. And then sometimes you'll sort of think, hey, I've been focused for quite a while now, and it's like you'll be pleasantly surprised. Yeah, I've managed to stay with this. So it's kind of a description of the practice in general, and it's also an explanation of why we do it the way we do it and why we do the practice the same way every time we do it. There are other meditations that we do as we get together here. Some are visualizations. Some are just other types of meditation that we practice. And those are all wonderful. And you may have others that you're aware of, and those are wonderful too. But that's an explanation of why we do this core practice the way that we do it. So, and Sean and Sam, I just want to check in with you guys and see, are you gonna?
Yep,
okay, yeah, I didn't want to hold you up too much, but I thought it would be helpful if you guys kind of heard that little explanation. So, awesome.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
I dig the beard thing, man. If I let mine grow again,
It's so close to coming off.
I like it.
I like it too, but got laid off about 3 months ago. And I just talked to my old lead yesterday, and he's saying things have not picked up. So I'm thinking that having this dangling off my chin is going to be difficult
Yeah.
in a situation.
Yeah. A lot of times I think of that Crosby, Stills and Nash song, "Almost Cut My Hair," that old song from the 60s, and feel like letting my freak flag fly, so I just try and keep it going. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's definitely not interview material. Well,
Well, it depends on if I'm going to get a job at a head shop or if I'm going
True.
to try to get a job in an office.
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess in the office would pay more.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for coming, guys. Have a great week. Take care.
You too.
See you soon. Be well.
You too.
Thank you. That's great. I've shared with other people in the group. Sam is the young guy, and Sean is his dad. But Sam's a student at New Richmond High School, and he got in touch with me. He wanted to do a project on mindfulness for high school students, and if it would be helpful in stress management. And so he got my information from one of the counselors there, and then I went and met him, gave him some information, and he did his project. Told me he got an A-, so he did pretty well in the project. And but since then, he and his dad have been coming for the first part of the meditation, and they have other obligations, so they go. But it's been neat that that they're finding benefit, and it's neat that they're doing that together as a father and a son. So. We'll get into a little discussion of some other meditation teachings and practices here. It's always pretty much open forum, so if you have questions at any time or comments or anything you'd like to share, that's very much appreciated. That it's often very helpful. Questions, everyone has the same questions, and sometimes that really helps the discussion along. So please feel free. This is your time, and so all of that is appreciated. I'm going to try to remind myself, though, if you ask a question or make a comment, you might notice me repeating it, and I'm trying to do that intentionally just so that the question is recorded, because sometimes that doesn't pick up too well on the little mic. So if you notice that, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So wonderful. Before we start the teaching, sometimes I like to share a little poem. It's kind of like a palate cleanser from going from one thing to the next. So this poem I just love. This is by Pablo Neruda. And the poem is called Keeping Quiet. So I'll just share this with you. Keeping quiet. Now we will count to 12. And we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead in winter and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go. Pablo Neruda. Beautiful poem. Just beautiful. So, sharing that. Tonight we're going to start talking about the Eightfold Path, which is a path for meditation practitioners. It's a holistic path. It's designed to help us with meditation practice, with mindfulness practice. And ultimately, the goal of our meditation and mindfulness practice is that we want to feel good, right? I mean, we're here because we want to feel better. Whether it's stress we're trying to minimize, or whether it's just grief or fear or sadness, whatever it is. I mean, we all have these human emotions, and we all want to feel better. We all want to feel joyful, and we all want to feel happy. And this practice will absolutely do that for you. It might take some time, but it really, truly does work. And I tell you that from personal experience, and I tell you that from the experience of many other people that I have talked to who have gone through this as well. So some of these teachings, some of them are, well, the teachings that I use, they're all about 2,500 years old. And they came from ancient Indian teachings and traditions. Sometimes they seem a little esoteric. Sometimes they seem a little far out. But it's helpful to just kind of open your mind to them. And then to also notice that I'm not, or to understand that I'm not like trying to offer a religion to you or like anything like that. I mean, this is, these practices came from ancient Indian traditions, a lot like yoga did, right? And so now we do yoga, and because we know it works, it feels good. It could be a religion if you wanted it to be, and for some it is. But for many, it's a wonderful practice. And meditation and mindfulness is the same way. You could take it to the level of being a religion if you wanted to. The way I teach it, though, I'm not trying to make anybody think anything in terms of a religion. So very secular in that sense. And therefore, it's universal, because you can accept it. Add it to whatever you got, and it'll work. So I've got a little handout, and usually I have one of these for each new class. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. Appreciate that. I'm hooked up to the mic, so it helps. So this one is on the Eightfold Path, subtitled The Path of the Noble Ones. Thank you very much. The Path of the Noble Ones. So I'll read from this handout, and then I'll just sort of talk about some of the things around it. We, in many cases, don't get through the entire handout in one evening, and so we'll return to it the following week. You can follow along if you'd like, or take notes if you want to. I have extra pens if anybody ever needs them. Some folks like to take notes, but I'll just kind of use this as our study guide, or as the teaching guide. So how we got to this teaching on the Eightfold Path that we're going to begin tonight, we got here by talking about the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths are the cornerstones in the foundation of Dhamma practice. And if you're wondering what that word Dhamma means, and I'm trying to do this more and more with the Pali words that I'm using, I have, let's see, yeah, I have on page 3 key words. And then so I've been trying to do just a little glossary, for us so that we have the definitions of these words. Some of these words have multiple meanings too, so they can mean different things in different contexts. So that word Dhamma, you may have heard it as the word Dharma, which is the Sanskrit version of the word. So it could be the body of teachings as expounded by the Buddha. And again, when we talk about the Buddha, we're not talking about a religious figure. We're talking about a person, a man who came up with a system of practice that is life-changing. Sometimes it can mean just phenomena, things that happen, things we can observe. And more often we use it as the overarching law that supports and upholds and maintains the order of the universe. It's kind of like the E equals MC squared of human experience. So that's what that word Dhamma means. But those Four Noble Truths that get us here, they're remarkable in how direct they are, and in how, when we understand them, and I have a little typo there, when we understand them correctly and begin putting them into practice correctly, they can transform our lives. So the Four Noble Truths, to review them, or to introduce them to you for the first time perhaps, and this is just sort of my version of them. Over the course of our lives, every one of us will experience dukkha. Dukkha is the word for stress, anxiety, dis-ease, unsatisfactoriness, and suffering. And sometimes it's helpful to think of dukkha as being the opposite of the word sukha, which is well-being, ease, contentment, happiness. So we experience this thing called dukkha. And as I mentioned, this is, really in a lot of ways, a lot of times the reason we're here is because we're looking to find strategies, healthy, holistic, realistic strategies for overcoming that suffering. The second truth is that dukkha is caused by something called tanha, and tanha is craving. It's a sort of self-centered desire for things, people, or states of consciousness, which we've convinced ourselves will bring us lasting happiness. And the rub there is that since these things that we crave can't provide the desired effect, we suffer. In addition, the experience of craving is, in and of itself, unsettling and stressful. And sometimes we refer to that as the wanting mind. If you become aware of your mind when you start wanting something, there's a little bit of just sort of a dis-ease feeling there. It's like, yeah, suddenly I just had this idea that I want this. And it could be anything. It could be as simple as I want a nice hot cup of coffee. It could be that. Now, that's not a type of craving that's generally going to cause you to experience suffering. But what it is it's a way of noticing that, when I just kind of crave simple things or I want simple things, the feeling tone around the wanting mind is one of agitation or dis-ease or feeling unsettled. So it's helpful to just know that. And so the more intense that craving becomes, the more intense the feeling of unsettling or dis-ease becomes. There's a quote that I referenced a couple times in the last couple of weeks. This is a quote by an author named Archie Baum who writes about this topic. And he defines there's kind of two types of desire. One is simple desire, and the Pali word is chanda. And simple desire means you're desiring what and no more than will be attained. While tanha, the craving, that's desiring more than will be attained. So, for example, if you desire a hot cup of coffee, probably pretty easy to take care of that desire. Make yourself a hot cup of coffee or whatever it is. Now, if you say to yourself, I want this cup of coffee to be the best cup of coffee I've ever had in my life, which isn't really a ridiculous thing to think, because sometimes we do think that way about certain things, but what we've done is we've added this requirement to the desire that is virtually impossible to fulfill, right? So this way that this Archie Baum, and this is not in this week's handout, but the way that he describes this, I think is just really right on the money. So simple desire, that chanda, desiring what and no more than will be attained. I want a hot cup of coffee. I can attain that. While tanha is desiring more than will be attained. I want this to be the best cup of coffee. Or sometimes we'll notice that if we get together with somebody that we are, maybe in a partnership relationship or somebody we're very close to or intimate with, we'll get together with them and we'll have this idea, I'm going to get together with this person, but I really need this person, to kind of take care of my emotional needs that are here right now. I really need, to be kind of taken care of or whatever the case may be. And we'll go into that experience desiring something beyond sort of we'll be together. We're desiring this added thing added in there. And so now we've set the stage for, this might not end up well. because we might not feel we're getting the attention we're craving from this person or that we're desiring from this person. And not saying it's a bad thing, not saying it's wrong, but just saying that now you're setting the stage for something not meeting up to the requirement that you've established for it. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a subtle thing, but it's real, and we do it all the time. We really do. And whether it's in, interpersonal relationships like that, or expectations. I use the example of, when you're a kid and it's your birthday, or, it's Christmas, if you celebrated Christmas, it was just such a big deal, every birthday, it's such a big deal. This is my day. The whole world celebrates me on this day, And sometimes as you get older, you kind of wish, geez, I wish birthdays were still like that, rather than sort of one step closer to my grave, you kind of wish the birthday was the wonderful, exciting moment, or that the holiday would be so joyful like the ones you remembered, So these are, again, not wrong, not judgment against us, oh, you shouldn't think that, but it's just a noticing that when we add this craving, to our experience, we're setting the stage for this suffering. So again, tanha is this sort of self-centered desire for things, for people, states of consciousness, which we've convinced ourselves will bring us some lasting happiness. And since these things we crave cannot provide the desired effect, we suffer. So even if they provide the desired effect initially, let's say that the cup of coffee really was the best cup of coffee you ever had. Well, how long is that going to be enough? And how long is it going to be until you say, well, I want this one to be even better than that one? We're generally not satisfied with anything for too terribly long. In psychology, they refer to this as hedonic adaptation. This part of us that wants to kind of have more and more and more. So it was noted in these teachings 2,500 years ago, but modern psychology, modern science says, yeah, it's a real thing called hedonic adaptation. We do it all the time. So we're always kind of wanting that one more thing. So even if this really was the best cup of coffee, how long is that going to be enough before it needs to be better next time? Or you might do like with working out, like I frequently do, which is, okay, I ran 5 kilometers in this amount of time today, and now next time I need to shave some time off of that. And then the next time I need to shave more time off of that. And then finally I'll find that I've injured myself because I've pushed too hard too many times, and I've just taken it one step too far. So this is kind of another example. We're always sort of setting the bar just a little higher until finally, kind of reaches that breaking point. We either can't achieve it or we get hurt trying. So that's just an example, working out, but it applies to like a lot of other things in life too. It can be money, it can be relationships, it can be anything. So that's the second one. The third one, when tanha ceases, dukkha ceases. So what this is saying, this is important. What the third noble truth is saying is that when the cause of suffering is eliminated, the suffering it causes is eliminated along with it. And the cause of suffering is this craving. So think of it this way. The real you, in the deepest sense, like in the really deepest sense, like in the sense that Pablo Neruda described in that beautiful poem, the real you, and I really believe this, and this is really true. Take my word for it if you don't believe me. That the real you is joy and love and equanimity, peacefulness, balance, freedom. The purpose of the Four Noble Truths is to give you a way to uncover that true self. Your true nature is not something to be attained, it is something to be revealed. So you can think about it just a little differently. It's not something you go out and get. This is something that you uncover, and it's here. So when we talk about turning the senses inward in meditation practice, that's one of the things we're talking about. This is where we can find real happiness, right here. We can't find it out there. We can't find it by making all the noises that distract us be silent. We can't find it by making all the aches and pains go away. We can only find it by turning the senses inward and revealing that which is already true within ourselves. And sometimes I talk about it as almost like if you have a lamp in a room with a light bulb on it, and that light bulb is there year after year after year, it starts to get layer upon layer of dust on it, and just dust accumulates and accumulates. And if it went on long enough, finally, the light's still there. It's maybe still a 60-watt bulb or whatever it is, but the dust has covered it up to the point where there's really not much illumination coming from it anymore. And so that's one of the things that the teachings talk about, is that this true nature within ourselves, this happiness, this peacefulness, this joy, this love that's here, it gets covered up, layer upon layer, and just thinking all the times that you've kind of been kicked around by life, that's like a couple of layers go over it. You start to kind of brace yourselves against heartbreak, and you cover up that light a little bit, and over time it accumulates until that light becomes quite dim. And so this is a revealing. We can uncover that light from within very, very, very directly through this practice. So you can think of the second noble truth as a process whereby we continuously cover up the real us. The happiness is already there, the peace is already there, but we cover it up. When we stop covering it up, it starts to show up. And when we work to uncover it further, it becomes brilliant and luminous. And so this is one of the couple of the lines of the text in one of these ancient 2,500-year-old suttas talking about this. It says, luminous is the mind, and it's defiled by incoming defilements. Luminous is the mind, and it's freed from incoming defilements. So it's talking about this process. And when we use the word defilements, it's not a moralistic judgment. It's just talking about the stuff that comes in. So it's not a morality thing when we talk defilements. It's just, yeah, boy, I had my heart broken a few times. Now I close my heart off a little bit as a way of self-protection. Well, that's kind of a, that having that heart broken, that's one of these defilements in this sense. It's just something that covers up that luminous true nature of the mind. Luminous is the mind, and it's defiled by incoming defilements. Luminous is the mind, and it's freed from incoming defilements. Knowing the process exists, understanding the process, that's what starts the freeing from the incoming defilements. That's what starts that process. And then the most efficient and effective way of ending the craving and ending the suffering is by following the Eightfold Path. And what I'll probably do is wrap it up here because we are almost out of time. And I have to apologize sincerely because I planned on having another meditation tonight at the end, but I got rambling. So I'm sorry about that. And if you want, you can stick around and we can do it. And Linda gave me a great idea for a second meditation that I sometimes do, and so I was planning on doing it. But I felt like it was probably worthwhile to really explain that meditation in detail, not just for you two being here for the first time, but for everybody else that was here, because it is so fundamental and so important. So for me, even after all these years of meditating every day, that's the meditation that I do. And this stuff is the same stuff that I work on every day. So it's that important. So this Eightfold Path, I guess we're just now kind of getting into it, but understanding those four truths is critical for understanding and working with the Eightfold Path. It is, oftentimes it's represented by what people most often think is like a ship steering wheel, but it's actually not. It's just, it looks like that, but that's not what it is. It's supposed to be a wheel with a hub in the center, and the hub in the center is us. It's our enlightenment, or it's our illuminate illuminated mind, our luminous mind. And then the 8 steps in this Eightfold Path are represented as spokes on the wheel. And so the idea of having spokes on a wheel, if you think about like a bicycle wheel, if it had 8 spokes on it, you'd want each of those spokes to be about equally strong, right? You know, if one was strong and the opposite one was super weak, the wheel would wobble, you know, it would be out of balance. And so the same thing is true. The idea is that each of these 8 things are like spokes on this wheel to be equally strengthened and to be worked on more or less simultaneously. It's not like you do one and then move to the next. But you'll find that there are opportunities to work on all 8 just about every minute of every day. And it's not a thing that is cumbersome, but it becomes just a real natural, oh yeah, I see this, I see this, I see how that works. And so that's what this symbol, the Dhamma-chakra, it's called. And you might be familiar with, or I pronounced it incorrectly, Dhamma-chakra, that's the Pali pronunciation. Dharma-chakra is the Sanskrit. You might be familiar with that word chakra if you're familiar with, like, you know, some of the energy work of the chakras. That's that word. It means wheel. It means wheel. So the Noble Eightfold Path is represented by the Dhamma-chakra. So I'm going to leave it here, and we'll pick up on this next week and continue on it. One of the things, as I mentioned on the very back of the handout in this little box, there's my contact info, so my phone. A lot of people call me to ask questions about classes or what the subject matter is going to be, or they shoot me a text and they say the weather's bad, are you having class tonight? So, I mean, feel free to use that number, call, text, that's what it's for. My email is on there, and also the web address on the very bottom. Stillknowing.org is the web address. And on that, if you go to the site and you click on Dhamma Talks, all of these weekly talks, along with the meditation, the whole thing is there on those Dhamma Talks, and the most recent one is always on top. And so I get them uploaded usually by Wednesday morning. So you can look for those if you're interested. So now we'll conclude, and before we leave, we're just going to take a minute. And this is something we do at the end, and sometimes we do it kind of quickly, but this is really important. I remember when I said that your true nature, there's love, there's joy, there's peacefulness, there's happiness, there's freedom, there's compassion. That's all here. And so one of the things that we do in the practice is we cultivate those to make them stronger, to make them more prominent in our consciousness and in our awareness. So at the very end of our weekly get-togethers, we always spend a moment doing this little practice called the 4 Brahma-viharas. And Brahma-vihara means highest states of consciousness. So we'll cultivate these feelings. It's pleasant and it's very important. So I invite you to just close your eyes, and I'll just guide you. I'll say the words, and to the extent that you feel comfortable, let my words just kind of speak for you here. But we begin with compassion, and it's helpful to sometimes think of it in terms of, you know, we suffer. We understand the experience of suffering in our own lives because we've had it. We do have it. And so from that place of understanding our own suffering, we can also understand how the suffering of other people, other beings, is really the same as our suffering. And we have a real connection to others through that. So we say, may all beings be free from suffering, and may all beings be free from the causes of suffering. And this is cultivating compassion. And next we say, may all beings be surrounded by love and kindness. Love and kindness. And this is metta, loving kindness. And then we say, may all beings be joyful. May all beings be truly happy. And may we derive happiness from the happiness of others. And in this way, our own happiness becomes virtually unlimited. May all beings be happy and joyful. And finally, the last one is, may all beings be free and peaceful, and may they live in equanimity, which means free from the craving that causes the suffering we experience. May all beings be free and peaceful and equanimous. And may you, sharing this time and this space with me tonight, may you all be truly, truly happy. Namaskar, everybody. Thank you so much for coming and for being here. And I hope your first experience was okay, not too weird, not too freaky. Good, good. And as I say, do feel free to reach out and get in contact with me. I love to answer questions, and so people do that all the time. And sometimes I fail to perform, as in the case of tonight, where I was going to share that second meditation, but maybe we can plan on that for next week. Yeah, so
the website is your website?
that is correct.
Okay.